Okay, can you hear me now, Janet? Oh, I still can't hear you. Oh, wait, I think I just heard something. Or
Yeah,
maybe
you heard me.
I
I'm
heard
on,
you.
but I don't hear Janet
You
either.
can't hear Janet either? Okay, it's not just me.
No, but I'm not shocked she has an orange microphone.
How about now?
Oh, now I can hear you.
Yes, that was totally on me because the little blue light on my microphone annoys me. So I turned it around in the mic stand and it flipped off the switch for the microphone.
Well, at least we figured out what it was.
Duh, that was a duh moment. So how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am good. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm Jelise Ballon. I'm pretty new with Workforce Solutions, but it's nice to meet you, Janet.
Carlene, are you still there? Oh.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I'm sharing an office, so I was muted. Yeah.
I joked.
That's also part of the reason I'm not on camera.
Well, I joked with my husband because I've got my setup in the kitchen, and over the weekend, I was recording a couple of radio shows and he was out doing lawn work. And I said, hey, we need to put on the grocery list a red light bulb. And he looks at me like, excuse me? And I said, I need to put it on the front porch so that when I'm recording in the house and you're outside, and don't come barreling through the front door, hooping and hollering and carrying on in the middle of one of my recordings.
That's a good idea.
He asked if we could get a color other than a red light bulb. He thought that was not.
Well, why not orange?
Yeah, I know. I said, well, okay then, but just remember. And do they make orange light bulbs?
So Jelise, I think they do. Jelise, Janet has an obsession with orange.
Oh.
And coffee, as you can tell from behind me.
Yeah.
But a lot with orange. She writes with orange Sharpies or orange.
Okay.
Yeah, see? You will always see her with orange nails.
Yes.
Oh, cool. One of the first companies I worked for was Anderson Consulting, and everything was orange there. So whenever I see lots of orange, it takes me back to my Anderson Consulting days. So.
And it started off, my husband jokes that I have turned this into, there's a Progressive insurance commercial where they start off and then they flash back and everything's a little more white, and then they flash back again and everything's even more white. He said, I feel like this is my life, that you started off with like an orange t-shirt and now suddenly everything is orange everywhere I look. So I think we're still waiting on Guy.
I think we are. Since this is Jalisa's first time, and since you have three of us, I don't know if you want to wait for Guy. I tend to think of him as a seasoned vet. You can drop him into any of these and he can probably handle it. But particularly since we're pre-recording it on Zoom, what's the cadence and how do you kind of want to handle all the back and forth?
It will pretty much flow just like it would on the radio show. So, Jelise, the way that we work it is we record two segments. The first one is 10, 12 minutes long. And then the second one is, again, about 10 or 12 minutes long. So let me let Guy in here because he may have a whole different idea of how he thinks. Oh, and look. He's not going to show us his live video either.
He might.
It's because he's sitting at Cracker Barrel.
Come on, Guy Curtis. We want to see your life.
Okay.
See that? Look at you. Please tell me you're wearing pants.
I am, yes.
Okay.
It's not the risky business outfit, sorry. That movie with the guys going around. Is it risky business?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The guy in the socks, yeah.
Yep.
I actually had to go to the station this morning for a staff meeting. It was a staff meeting via Zoom, but Kathy at the station is going in every day and she doesn't have a webcam. So I had to go in to put my show in the system for today anyway. So she and I do a Zoom together for everybody else. So I actually had to get dressed. Otherwise, every other Zoom conversation I've done have been in my pajamas. So, and I'll put on a blazer. Like I literally interviewed the president of Valley Health last week in my pajamas with a blazer on.
And now we know your secret.
Yeah. So I figured, So Guy, I was walking Jelise through how it works. So typically we'll do a 10, 12-minute segment. I'll do an introduction of everybody. And then usually I'll just hand it off to Guy and he'll kind of guide through, this is what we're going to be talking about. This is what's going on. We do that for 10 or 12 minutes. It's just a conversation, not anything really formal. I'll do the intro like the radio show. I'll do an outro and say, we're going to take a break. At that point, we're not recording for the radio show, but we can say, okay, so we covered this in the first segment. What do we want to make sure we cover in the next segment? Then we come back in like it's the radio show, just like we were sitting in the studio, only now we've got, computer screen in front of us. So the other question I have, and this is where Guy's going to go back to being his picture. Is it okay? And if it's not okay, it's fine, that I use the Zoom video for our YouTube channel. Some of the shows that I've been doing over Zoom, it's been kind of cool because I can put the Zoom interview up on YouTube on our Valley Today playlist, and then people can go there and actually watch us having the conversation. And then they get to hear the before and what we talk about during the segments and in the middle and that sort of thing. If not, because I've had a couple that say, no, I don't have makeup on, or I don't want to do that. And
here's the reason I'm not on it. But don't you like that I chose someone else's house for my background?
I was going to say, I want to live with you because that's a nice house.
Okay, well, this is our office. And this is my dream home. So
see? Yeah, and if you got to be somewhere.
Oh, wait a minute. And I've got an interloper. Here,
I was going to say, yeah. Nice. Hey, we're all learning to adjust.
He's got a great radio voice, though, I will say.
Ah.
No, stop.
He can do sign language. Yeah, that's not very effective on the radio.
Say hi. That's Janet Michael. She's the one that I go out there and talk with.
Oh, hey, Janet. How are you?
Oh, my gosh. He does have a good radio voice.
I told you.
Uh-oh. See, that's part. So what do you do?
For a small fee, I could be you.
Yeah, right.
Trust me, it would not take much.
I'm easily bought, but shh, don't tell nobody. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Jelise, you got to keep them under control.
Okay.
So now you know why I'll have no video and no audio.
Some of them, it's been fun because some people have been, a lot of my listeners don't necessarily even understand how Zoom works. They have no idea how this is all coming together. So it's been kind of cool for them, especially because normally in the beginning, before we actually start the show, I know so many of them. So there's one up there now from Nathan Stalvey, who's the executive director at the Clark County Historical Association. And I've known Nathan forever. So we have this whole big conversation about what's been going on in his life. And I just let it all go on the Zoom and everybody gets to hear it. And then they get to hear me do the intro for the show. But I've had some that are like, no, I'd really rather not be on YouTube. And I'm like, okay, that's fine too.
Well, I have no problem with it, but I'll leave it up to Guy and Carlene.
And Guy's not paying any attention to us at all.
I'm relocating my office right now.
He is not to be outdone. I see something.
Something weird happening with the brim of your hat.
Yeah, it's not going to work. I'm using a different computer, so I'm not able to showcase where I am.
See, I can't do that either with the video card that I have in this particular laptop. Doesn't let me use any of the Zoom backgrounds. The only option I have is my actual real life background.
Yeah.
So I guess my question though is really, so there's three of us. You're really mostly going to have Jelise and Guy talking. Is that right? I mean, I'm trying to figure out like where do you want me to fit into all of this?
So what were you thinking, Guy? This is you set this up.
Well, my thoughts too is I don't necessarily have to be on the show the entire time. And I guess Brandy in the past has maybe added a few things in prior to leading in the show. So I guess if it's best just to keep Carlene in and just here's Guy, by the way, or just I'll give you the websites to mention or places to go, that kind of a thing, and then I'll let them run with the show. But I'm open to either way. To be honest, I'm not very versed in what the topic she's going to talk about. I just know that we're going to be a resource and here to help employers and individuals during this time, and that's it. And I guess lead into the topic of 5 ways to support employees. That's what we're hoping to talk about today.
Okay, so what I'll do is do the introduction of you, Guy, and then I'll say that Carlene is also here along with Jelise, and that a lot of what we're going to talk about is this webinar that you guys have on your website. And then Carlene, I'll just bounce over to you and say, so how has your life changed? Because you did corporate training, and this is a whole new level of corporate training. And then you can talk about maybe what's going on behind the scenes with you guys now, and then maybe bring Jelise into the conversation with the webinar, how
Sure.
you came up with the idea, and then we could just talk about it.
Okay, perfect.
All right, and that should get us through at least the first 10, 15 minutes, and then we can regroup if we have to during the break and figure out what do we talk about in the next segment.
Well, what we can talk about as we wrap up would be, what is our new normal going to look like, and how are we going to come alongside our businesses? And business as usual will never be usual again. So how do we
Yeah. Okay, that works. All right,
Okay.
Let's see how far we get. And remember, since it's recorded, I can edit out. So if you lose your train of thought or you have a hiccup in your brain, don't worry about it. Just keep going, because I can edit that all out of the audio after the fact. So don't freak out. All right, let me write down the time, because I've been forgetting to do that. And then I don't really even know how long the segments are, because I'm not writing down what time we actually start. Hello and welcome to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. We recorded today's show via Zoom on Wednesday afternoon with Guy Curtis from Lord Fairfax Community College's Workforce Solutions. Guy, everybody else may be shut down or working in a smaller capacity, but I think you and I and the ladies that you've brought with you today are working harder and more than we probably have on a normal 9-to-5 business day, aren't we?
Absolutely. We're all getting used to working remotely and virtually, and it's taken a toll, but I think some of us are getting into a new norm with this new way of working, and hopefully it's not for long, but we're adapting and getting through and continuing our business.
I think a lot of people, I was having a conversation earlier in the day with Nikki Kales from the Front Royal Chamber, and we were talking about the number of people that maybe in the beginning of all of this felt like they were being forced to try this new way of working and working from home. But a lot of them may end up continuing to work this way when we're on the other side of this, because it just makes more sense and it's a whole lot more convenient for the employer and the employee.
Right. Yeah. It's very funny that our LeaderCast topic this summer is called positive disruption. And I feel like this has been kind of a positive thing. We were even talking this afternoon at our staff meeting how we're learning new ways to deliver content online and work with technologies that we have in an existing way. And I think a lot of our customers are going to start expecting that moving forward. And so I think with this unique opportunity, it's been definitely a disruption in how we do day-to-day business, but it's definitely a great opportunity as well moving forward and capitalizing on how we can better serve our students and employers within our region.
So Carlene Hurdle, I was going to say is with you, but technically she's on the screen with us.
Yes.
She is the corporate training director for Workforce Solutions. Is that right?
That's right. Hi, how are you today, Janet?
I am good, Carlene. How are you doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Thank you for having us on here to talk about all of this positive disruption, as Guy called it.
So how has the way you conduct business and do your job changed? Because I know you've done the show several times, and a lot of what we've talked about has been based on in-person meetings and people learning new skills at a particular location, which probably isn't working for you right now.
No, we're not able to obviously be a part of businesses, but what we have been doing is coming alongside of our businesses. And, if you look at the business landscape right now, it's a crazy looking economy. I mean, we have businesses that are teetering on the edge of going out of business. We have those businesses that are on the front line that are completely booming. And then we've got folks that are in the middle. They're a little more idle, but they're going to survive it. And that's where we're trying to figure out what can we do to help them thrive during this time and maybe rethink some of their strategies and even build and create more cohesive teams during this time so that when we do go back to some sense of normalcy, which I think will probably be a phased in approach, how can we be better for having been through this time frame? And so that's really what we've been reaching out to our business community to do, is to try and pour into them any sorts of resources or things that we can do just to offer up any insights. We recently put together, we have a brand new product development person on staff. She's a curriculum and instructional designer. She does phenomenal things. And so we've utilized her talents and gifts to put together some very informative pieces for us to share with our businesses, again, to just pour into them during this very unusual time.
So that brings me to Jelise. She is a corporate training product developer at LFCC Workforce Solutions. Jelise, welcome to being a rookie on the Valley today.
Thanks, Janet. It's good to be here.
You may actually possibly be the first rookie on the show this way. So you're like a double whammy rookie.
Awesome. Breaking new ground.
So Guy sent me the link to the webinar, which is part of what we're going to talk about today, because it's 5 ways to support employees during this unprecedented time. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you came up with this idea.
Well, I think like Carlene said, it's such a difference in what all of the challenges are that different businesses are dealing with right now. But we know that unless you're a frontline worker, you have this new normal of not having your staff all together. And before I came to Lord Fairfax, I worked for a global IT company for 13 years where my team was entirely remote on a different continent. So I have a number of years of experience working in the remote environment and even managing teams that way. And I think that it's a skill that you have to develop over time, and understanding how to effectively communicate and collaborate with teams remotely. And we have all of these organizations that have just been thrust into this that may not have had the time to develop the tools and have the right technology and the skill set in place. So we came up with the idea for this webinar because we felt that leaders really wanted to kind of come around their workforce and support them in this unusual time. And the number of people who attended really echoed that sentiment. I was really blown away by the number of folks from the area who attended this, because it really shows that our local leaders are concerned about their employees and they want to support them during this time. So we had a great turnout, and that was really encouraging for me to see just the strong leadership we have in the Valley.
And I think it's double-sided too, because I'm sure that a lot of employers had no real idea what was going to happen when they sent their workforce home and still expected them to be productive. And at the same time, the workforce, the people themselves, are suddenly now thinking, where am I going to do this? Is it going to be in my kitchen? I don't necessarily have a room in my house to designate as an office. No, we all have different ways of working, and now we all have different rooms that we can work in.
Right. And that's one of the things we mentioned on the webinar, because I think even just 2 weeks ago, a lot of us looked at this as a very temporary situation, and in the last 2 weeks it's evolved for us to start to realize this is going to be a lot longer term than I think any of us thought. And so that goes from, we're just patching up a leak and doing a quick fix, versus we have a new normal for probably 2 to 3 months now that we need to adjust to and be able to continue to pour into the business and be effective. And then of course you have the added challenge of all the kids are out of school, so even those of us who are seasoned work from home people have the added bonus of our kids being home, which creates a whole set of challenges on its own.
So this webinar gives people 5 tips or 5 ways to kind of work through it, but it's more from the employer to the employee.
Right. Yeah, the tips are really geared more towards what leaders can do to help and support their teams during this time.
So can you walk me through a couple of them? Not
Sure.
necessarily giving away everything, because I know people can still go watch this webinar
Yeah.
after the fact, right, Guy?
Yes, that's right. So there's still an opportunity to watch the replay for it. So yes, Jelise, go ahead, give them some tidbits.
Well, I'll share it number one and my personal favorite because my background is in communication. So our number one tip is communicate, communicate, communicate. And I read this really great quote the other week from Pat Lencioni, who's a best-selling author and just an expert in leadership and business leadership. And he said, no one will look back at this time and say, my manager was so annoying with all the encouraging emails checking in on me. And I think as leaders, sometimes we have this tendency to worry about inundating our employees. And because there's already information overload right now with the news and social media, it may be our nature to hold back. But what we need to realize is our employees, this is not normal. And so they are hungry for information. They're hungry for some sense of stability and what's to come. And so it's never been more important for leaders to be communicating regularly and almost erring on the side of over communicating with their employees. And especially when you don't have the benefit of that face-to-face interaction that you're probably used to having if your workforce is remote, you have to make an extra effort to communicate, and you have to find new channels to do that, and make sure that you're communicating not only formal information around, you know, what's happening with the business, what are our focus areas, but also just those personal check-ins. How are you doing? What do you need from me? What are you struggling with? And that really goes a long way with our employees feeling that it's going to be okay and my leader really cares about me and is there to support me.
Do you typically find that some of those are better to do one-on-one, especially using a tool like we're using today for Zoom, so that you can have that face-to-face individually with some of the employees? Or do you feel like it's still as good to do it all together in Zoom as a staff meeting where 10 or 12 people are all together talking about how they're doing?
Well, I think you can do both. When I was a manager of a remote team, I always had weekly one-on-ones with my direct reports because we didn't have the luxury of sitting near each other working in the same space. So I didn't know if they were having a bad day because I couldn't see their body language. I didn't know if there was something going on at home or there was something to celebrate if I didn't have that weekly check-in with them. But I also think having team meetings is really helpful too. And here in Workforce Solutions, we've started having weekly team meetings, whereas we used to only do them every other month. And there's 20 to 25 of us who are joining in on Zoom. So it's like the Brady Bunch multiplied with all the little squares, but it's great to see everybody's face and have that chance to connect because information is changing so rapidly.
I've been doing Facebook Live videos with several of the local chambers trying to offer up marketing ideas and ways for businesses to kind of think outside the box from a marketing and promotion perspective. And one of the tips that I had been giving was get to know your employees. If they're still working for you in-house, now is the perfect time to actually have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation to find out what are their likes and dislikes, their strengths and weaknesses, because it could be that you have an employee who is really good at social media, and that's not something you really can handle with everything else that's going on right now.
Right.
I would imagine as an employer, suddenly nobody being in the office and having meetings this way, you're suddenly starting to realize, wow, I really didn't know that particular employee as well as I thought I did.
Yeah, I think that's true. And that was one of our suggestions on the webinar. We were giving ideas of questions that leaders should be asking themselves. And one of them was, what questions should I be asking my employees? And I think that you hit the nail on the head. This is such an opportune time to really get to know your employees and ask those questions that maybe you wouldn't normally ask them, to check in with them. And, a little humor and levity goes a long way too. We have had our team meeting earlier today, and we had some fun with people wearing wigs and other costumes. And, you know, a good laugh really goes a long way in getting us all through this situation. And
Oh, wait. Guy Curtis has a mullet wig. Are you kidding me?
I was sporting the mullet wig today. Yes.
Okay, we are
it was
totally putting
fabulous.
this video on our YouTube channel. And before this is all said and done, you are putting that wig on your head.
Well, I was surprised. One wig came out, and then we probably had 4 or 5 other wigs surface out of nowhere. So we had wigs just on demand, just standing
just
by.
on standby.
We have been doing our staff meetings at the station. We normally do them once a month, and we've been doing them every week, and we've been doing them via Zoom. And since I've been going to the station, and Kathy and I have been sharing a screen to do them, we joked today that we're going to get a background that's the ocean, and we're going to wear our floppy hats and have a fancy drink at next week's staff meeting.
There you go.
Yeah, we've had some very creative backgrounds on Zoom meetings as well. It's very fun to see.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Jelise, can you share a few more of the tips that were in the webinar?
Sure.
All right, we're going to do that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to chat more. Guy Curtis is on the screen with me. He's not across the desk or even pre-recording, even though technically we're pre-recording. He is on the screen with me from LFCC's Workforce Solutions. Carlene Hurdle also has her own square on the screen. She is the Corporate Training Director for Workforce Solutions, and we have also been chatting with Jelise. She is a Corporate Training Product Developer at Workforce Solutions. We're going to talk more with all three of them when we come back in just a couple of minutes. Ta-da! And you'll notice, Jelise, I refrained from saying your last name because I forgot to ask you how to pronounce it before we got started.
That's okay. It's Ballon, but if you got Jelise, that's people struggle with that one too. So
well, and I was trying to figure out because when Guy sent over the email, in the body of the email, he said Jelise is going to be joining us, but your email address was Jennifer.
Yeah.
But then when you logged on, and I saw it had Jennifer Elise.
Yeah.
I think. And I'm like, okay, now I know
Yeah.
where it comes from.
I have to go in and change it because that's my legal name. So that's what pops up on everything. But nobody calls me Jennifer.
So when we come back, do you want to go through maybe 2 more of the tips and not give away all 5, but just pick 2 more of them and kind of talk about them like we did the communicate one?
Sure, I can do that.
And then, Carlene, is there anything extra that you want to add in if somebody is interested? Because you can still start something, right? I mean, they can still reach out to you. Now is the perfect time to kind of do some research and figure out training while you've got staff that may not be busy full time.
Well, we also have some solutions that we can still continue to offer, which would be some individualized coaching, which we can do via Zoom. And now might be a perfect time for someone to get that coaching, you know, who maybe is working on their business more than they're working in their business, and can start to, you know, really come alongside some of their staff and help to beef up those skills that maybe they've been intending to work on. So we do have that. Jelise is masterful at putting together pretty much any kind of training that they may decide that they want. So if there's something that we could do for them, even in a micro learning format, or if they wanted us to facilitate a Zoom type of classroom, we could do that. I mean, we're really thinking outside the box. So sure, anything and everything goes. Our goal is, and our passion is, to come alongside our businesses and our companies and just serve them and help them in the best way possible right now.
So, Guy, what is the status of classes? I mean, are there still classes people can do because they're completely online, or is that how's that working right now?
Yeah, some courses have been postponed or delayed until face-to-face can happen, but a lot of it has been moved online. But we do offer hundreds of online courses that we don't normally talk about. So I think that's another opportunity too that Jelise will recommend in the webinar, that there are some great resources for online learning, whether you're an individual or a corporation to share. So that's something we can mention as well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's come back and we'll do 2 more tips, and then we'll get into that a little bit too. So hang on. Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. We are recording today's show via Zoom with Guy Curtis from Lord Fairfax Community College Workforce Solutions. Carlene Hurdle is also on the screen with us. She is their corporate training director, along with Jelise Ballon. See, I should have just, along with Jelise. I'll edit all of that out, along with Jelise, who is their corporate training product developer. We've been talking about a webinar that is available even now. If you missed it the first go round, you can still go back and watch it. I know Guy's going to give us that link in a few minutes. But Jelise, I want to come back to you because there were 5 tips in here for employers to really help their employees transition. And the first one that you gave us in the top of the show was communicate. What's another one of the 5 that you give?
Another tip we have is to set realistic goals and expectations. And we mean, when we say this, we mean both for the business and for your employees. But we really focused in the webinar on setting realistic expectations for your employees. And I think this is especially important for organizations that are suddenly thrust into this telework or remote work environment, because if you have employees who are not used to doing this, they may not understand what the expectations are. So just simple things like setting expectations around availability and how to communicate. Perhaps texting is your preferred communication for urgent matters and email for everything else. Or maybe you have a collaboration space like Microsoft Teams, and that's what you want your employees to use. But it's important for leaders to communicate that with their employees and set those expectations for when they will be available. And then, we were talking a few moments ago about that face-to-face interaction. And, when you are on calls, do you want to see your employees face-to-face? Do you want to set that as an expectation that they be able to do that? Or are you fine with just hearing each other's voices? So just little things. I think it's important for employees to understand what those expectations are so that they're not caught off guard and you don't have leaders who are getting frustrated because there are these unspoken expectations. But the important part of that tip is the realistic part, because this is not business as usual, and we're all in an uncertain time, and those of us who have kids at home. So we need to make sure our expectations are realistic and flexible for our employees.
And we touched earlier too on the fact that employers need to kind of make sure they know their employees to a certain extent, because they also have to take into account if, like you mentioned, all of a sudden now all 3 kids are home while this employee is also trying to work. That has to kind of factor into that expectation level a little bit too, I believe.
Right, absolutely. And if your employees need a little extra flexibility, then come up with a plan that works for both of you so that your business goals and objectives, or your objectives for the team, are getting met, but you have that flexibility so your employee can also tend to the needs of their family.
I remember when I first moved my office, when I had an office for my marketing firm, I always had an office. I never thought I was a work from home kind of person. I always thought I needed an office, and I had a really nice office, shockingly, Guy, over a coffee shop in Old Town Winchester. I know that might be hard to believe, but at the end of the year, when I had moved into that building and realized how much money I was spending on rent, and that literally maybe 3 clients ever visited me at that office because I always go to them, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to move everything home. That was the toughest first year of my life, because I couldn't not see the dishes in the sink. I couldn't not know that laundry was stacking up downstairs. It was a tough transition for me to be able to do that. And I think that's going to be a big struggle for a lot of the employees that the employers also need to take into account.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're riddled with distractions when we're at home, and especially, right now, if you also have kids at home, it's extra distraction. So it's definitely something for leaders and managers to take into consideration. And again, that's why we recommend setting realistic goals, because maybe what you decide with your employees is that, there's a certain amount of hours that need to be contributed to each project each day, but when they get it done, it's up to them. so you're giving them the flexibility to meet the needs of their family, or if they have those distractions, or maybe the expectation you said it with your employees, they find a quiet room where they're away from those distractions for a couple hours a day. But yeah, like you said, have that conversation with your employees, understand what their situation is like, and then, come up with something that's realistic for both of you.
So give me another tip.
The last tip that we give on the webinar, not surprisingly being a higher education organization, is to educate yourself and your employees. And there's certainly no shortage of information that's going around right now. One of the things that we did with this webinar is we gave a handout to everyone who attended, and that's also accessible for those who want to watch it on replay. But it has a whole bunch of links of resources, both government resources where business leaders can find information that's pertinent to leading their business during this time and during a pandemic, as well as resources for free collaboration tools that they can find, resources for employees if they have employees who are finding themselves in an unstable situation financially and need aid or support. There's resources they can direct to their employees, and then also resources for learning, because we really believe that this is a time to embrace learning, not to run away from it. You might have some employees who have a little more downtime than normal, so what a great opportunity to work on professional development. Or you may have employees who you are hiring because you're so busy to meet the demand that you need to quickly get them upskilled. And Guy can talk more to this, but we have, face-to-face training is not really an option right now, but we have hundreds of online courses that we offer through Workforce Solutions. So there's a lot of opportunity for organizations to educate themselves, not only with what's happening in this current situation, but just broadly to work on their professional development and work on the business. And that was another great quote that actually Carlene had shared with me, that somebody had said, if you can't work in the business during this time, then work on the business. And so there's a lot of ways for leaders to be investing in their business during this time.
And I think that she makes an important point too, Guy, because there are a ton of online things that are still available, and I never have to set foot on campus or see somebody in person. I can still sign up, register, and go through those online classes, right?
Yes, absolutely. So virtually, we're still here on campus in theory. We can respond to any questions students or employers are looking for. But some of the recommendations that online learning that are out there that's possible, managing productivity in remote workplaces, stress management in the workplace, productivity need tools. There's a ton of online classes that we have within our categories of courses. So business and professional development, computers and IT, leadership, human resources, customer service, business applications with computers. So there's a lot of different opportunity out there. And believe it or not, we have heavy equipment operator online.
What?
Yep. Shut the front door. Exactly. Yes. So as far as opportunity, that's another tremendous program that we have available that we don't talk much about, but that is a program we're going to be featuring as a way for individuals to ramp up skills. We have a lot of folks that are being laid off, and a lot of opportunity for those to retool. But the businesses that are out there that are still surviving, there's a lot of opportunity for their own professional development with the employees we have. So we literally have hundreds of online courses that are starting and enrolling either through continuous open enrollment or open-ended enrollment, so you can just jump in at any time, or there are several that are also starting on specific starting dates. So if you are interested, for example, our heavy equipment operator class, it starts May 1st, and it is an online course until eventually we meet in person for the hands-on portion. So as far as opportunity goes, we are continuing to provide the skills that individuals need to grow themselves and support the employers that we work with.
And I think one of the silver linings to all of the working from home and the changing the way that we work is there's probably a certain part of the population out there that would love to take classes, especially online classes, business development classes, but always wondered, could I even do something like that online? I'm not that tech savvy, for example. And working from home and having to learn some of these new skills to do their regular everyday job probably is going to make it a whole lot easier and more advantageous for them to say, well, you know what, if I can work from home for 3 months, I'm sure I can take an online class because that's going to be a walk in the park compared to what I've had to do.
Yeah, I think our society is so quickly adapting to this new virtual environment that they'll realize some of those opportunities to go online are not as hard and even in some cases more convenient. So, but I know many of us still like the traditional face-to-face interaction with an instructor, but a lot of the online courses we do provide that direct immediate feedback, and you have someone either on Zoom or some other platform to walk with you and talk with you in case you have questions or concerns during your course and training. So that's the great thing about a lot of the online opportunities that we have that support. And if anything, we have the staff internally to help guide people through those moments if they come across any roadblocks.
Carlene, you were telling me when we took the quick break that business is going on as usual for all of the services and everything that you offer through the corporate training program. I'm sure there are a lot of businesses that have had to pivot in the last couple of weeks that are now wondering, is this something I can continue when everything kind of gets back to whatever the new normal is? You guys are still working. You're still offering suggestions. You're still doing coaching. You guys are still full steam ahead with all of the services that you offer anyway, right?
Well, just as you see the business community starting to serve their clients in new ways, we're likewise pivoting and shifting so that we can meet our clients where they're at. And with social distancing and meetings of less than 10 people and those sorts of restrictions, we too are having to find some new approaches in how we serve our clients. But it's been very positive because we now have the opportunity to develop customized online training, for instance, or we can come alongside an organization that needs to provide smaller snippets of information and do micro-learning, which is 10 to 15 minute quick how-tos. So we have the ability to come alongside a business, and previously where we may have had a 3-hour course or a 6-hour course in person, we can now do that online, and we can digitize the content, we can shorten the program. We are going to be offering some one-on-one coaching so that leaders of organizations who are looking to sharpen the saw, so to speak, during this time can do so and still have that connectivity to an individual. So we've been working very creatively and collaboratively within our organization. And then one of the things that we're exploring and reaching out to businesses to do as well is to have some leadership roundtables to just facilitate conversations between companies and industries that are going through this together. And for example, we are in a huge manufacturing backbone. And so what are our manufacturers doing? Those that are running, how are they doing it? And those who are not running, what could they be doing differently? What could they be utilizing their equipment or their resources to do to approach business in a new way? So we're really just coming alongside our business community and saying, tell us what we can do to serve you in a different way that's useful to you during this time. And then as we all come out of this, I think we're going to come out of this with a whole new perspective on what the art of the possible is for achieving the goals. I think that there's many, many silver linings in all of this for us because we have been sort of forced to think creatively. And so, those are just some of the ways that we're doing it. We're reaching out. It's funny because Jelise and I have been sitting in on several webinars that our organizations pouring into us so that we can pour into our business community. And so, we're just gaining some wonderful insights and getting a chance to see and participate in some really incredible creativity. So I think that, sky's the limit. If a company can dream about it, I'm sure we can come alongside them and help because we do have access to so many resources and so much innovation and creativity right now in this particular business landscape.
And now is the time. I mean, history has shown us that some of the most successful companies that we have do business with and see today are successful today because they came through a crisis like this and decided we're going to take a chance. We're going to try something new. We're going to go full steam ahead. They weren't companies that decided they were going to go hover in a corner and just hope and pray for this to pass quickly. So it's the perfect time to reach out now and say, you know what, I'm throwing caution to the wind and we're going to give this a shot and see what happens.
Right, and we just want to encourage our customers who are maybe stalled a little bit or are working hard to survive this environment to be thinking of what you want to do to really thrive as you come out of it.
So, Guy, where can people go to watch Jalise's webinar?
Sure. Our website, lfccworkforce.com/webinar, or if you just go to our website, lfccworkforce.com, and search webinar, you'll be able to find it. And from there, you'll be able to download the replay as well as look at the handouts that she recommends and we've put forward. And so it's a tremendous opportunity to just watch the replay. There's no cost or obligation. Just to visit the website. And if you have any trouble, feel free to give us a call to help you get there.
And I will tell you, since you emailed it to me, and I'll show it up here on the screen, I went in. I haven't watched the webinar, but I went in and I printed the PowerPoint and went through some of that just so I knew. And it literally took like maybe a minute and a half to fill out the form. And then it was in my inbox and it was full steam ahead. So it was a really easy process.
Absolutely. And so a ton of great resources all in one place. And we are that resource for our community employers. So yeah, take a few moments, take a look at it, and help yourselves in a number of different ways.
Well, we are going to wrap up today's episode. We have been chatting with Guy Curtis from Lord Fairfax Community College Workforce Solutions. Carlene Hurdle has been on the screen with us as well. She is the corporate training director, along with Jelise, who is a corporate training product developer with Workforce Solutions. Thank you guys for taking some time out of your afternoon to have a conversation with me on Zoom.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thanks, Janet. We appreciate it.
So as we're recording this, let's see, listeners are listening to this right now on Thursday afternoon. We recorded it on Wednesday afternoon, but for the first time all week, I can say with a great deal of confidence that my guest tomorrow on Friday, because all week I have no idea what was when I was recording and what day and anything else. But I am going to be having a conversation with Dr. Fight tomorrow from Valley Health. He's going to be joining me to talk about their telehealth services that Valley Health has recently kicked off. So meet me back here tomorrow at a few minutes after noon. I will have that show geared up and ready to go for you. I will also have links to everything that we talked about in today's show on the show notes page. You can go to theriver953.com and click on the Valley Today banner on the front page, and they are already there right this minute waiting for you. I'll meet you back here tomorrow a few minutes after noon. Ta-da!
Very good.
The other cool part about pre-recording is I can already have everything online while the show is airing. So they don't even have to wait for us to finish doing the live show and then me to get it all together and put up for the podcast. So
that's cool.
It makes it a whole lot easier. All right, guys. So, Guy, I guess I won't see you now for 2 months because my guess is Brandy will be the next two.
I guess so, unless she can't go for her political reasons.
Well, let's hope they don't postpone the election. So
yeah. Well, thanks for doing all this. This was a lot of fun, and I would, if you can get it on the YouTube page, I think it'd be pretty cool to have as well too. Yeah.
Wait, that reminds me. You're not getting out of this that easy. Off with the hat and on with the wig.
This thing
Janet,
is old.
you're good. I forgot about that.
Oh my God.
Hopefully I can appeal to some of our clients in some way or form, but
I'm not, if it were blonde, I'd say you look like Joe Exotic. But since you're not, you look more like Joe Dirt.
I like the guy from Big Trouble in Little China, Jack Burton, Kurt Russell. Yeah. And so I came into the office one day with one of our staff meetings, and I was dressed up as a trucker that looked like Jack Burton from that movie. And so that's always been my favorite movie from the 80s, and it's always stuck with me. So
nice.
That's
so,
awesome.
Jelise, before you go, do you also have tips and suggestions from the employee side?
Yeah, in fact, it's we've kind of been brainstorming that we might be doing more of these webinars, and one of the next ones might be around tips for staying productive when working from home, because it is a challenge and there are a lot of distractions. So I'm working on kind of compiling those just from expert resources as well as my own personal experience, just some ways that people can stay productive when they're working at home.
Awesome. Guy, let me know when you get those done, because the other thing that this has done, talk about changing my whole way of doing, I mean, pre-recording was never anything new for me, but when I am normally booked out for the show 30, 60 days, and overnight I had like the whole month opened up because a lot of my guests are coming to talk about events. And suddenly Apple Blossom isn't happening. And suddenly all of these things, Tourism Tuesday, how in the world am I going to have a conversation with Justin Kearns for Tourism Tuesday when everything tourism related is closed and not open? We're actually, I think, I sent him a text yesterday. We're going to pitch and change it from Tourism Tuesday to Takeout Tuesday. And we're going to feature all the restaurants that are doing takeout and that kind of stuff. But one of the things that it has let me do that I, again, was always hesitant, I'm in some cases splitting the show. So like you guys always have enough content for both segments. But Monday's show was, the first segment was Carrie Hill that I recorded, and she's a teacher at Front Row Christian School, talking about being a teacher and doing online learning while having 3 kids at home who also are learning with other teachers. The second segment was Nathan from the Clark County Historical Association talking about the online resources for the museum. So I now have the ability to potentially do 2 topics in a show if I can't find somebody that can do the whole 20 minutes. So Jelise, if you get one of those put together, we can easily make that a 10 or 12 minute segment in one of the Valley Today shows, even if we don't do the whole show.
Awesome.
Let's do it. Yeah.
And Janet, as you're talking with folks too, I mean, we're just hungry for information. At least I know I probably am driving everyone around me crazy because I've become an information hoarder. Just because there's so much good content being put out, and there's so many, I mean, my goodness, statistics change by the hour right now. So, the content that's coming out around this has just been powerful and meaningful. And so if you're hearing about something specific, or you come up with them and you think, nobody's really talking about this, let us know, because we would certainly love to be able to wrap our minds around those types of topics and potentially put something out there. Like I said, we're not short on ideas, but we don't want to chase, 500 shiny objects. We obviously want to do the things that are meaningful for our clients. And I'm really excited about the idea of pulling our manufacturers together for just a leadership roundtable. And I'll be really curious to hear what they are dealing with and what they have to say about, this life in this new realm, because some of the manufacturers are just slammed to the walls and others are teetering on the verge of bankruptcy. So, I mean, how do you navigate, industry at a time like that? And so the other thing too is that we're watching very, very carefully all of the labor market and economic indicators to see where, I heard a staggering statistic this morning. Again, I'm an information hoarder. 167,000 Virginians applied for unemployment last week.
Wow.
So we're going to jump from being almost 2 points below the national average to double-digit unemployment by the end of the month. I mean, it's just crazy. So we're going to be really having our ear to the ground, listening to where our labor market and economic indicators are telling us the jobs and, the industries that will be beefing back up. I mean, I think we'll have a fairly decent recovery period on all of this, but for us, and Guy mentioned this earlier on another call that we were on, but when unemployment, well, hello there. Oh, a ThreadUp box. I know that.
Box. Yes.
I know the polka dot. But our business is affected by unemployment. So for every 1% unemployment, our business is affected 2 percentage points in the same direction, right?
Right.
Well, and
we-
I had one of the small businesses. I was over in Luray yesterday, and I was talking to a couple of those restaurants and the small businesses on Main Street. Some of them, and it was something that never really even occurred to me, but they were concerned because they've had to already let some people go. They're trying to get the PPP loans, and they're doing all of whatever they can for those loans, but they had to go ahead and cut some people loose who are now applying for unemployment, but they're going to be making probably 3 times the amount of money with this extra $600 on unemployment than they were making when they worked for them full time. And now they're concerned about what's going to happen when all of that goes away and people have had 3 months of all of this extra money, and now they got to go back to their regular jobs that aren't going to be paying what they were making when they weren't working.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, but we will be ready to upskill them and help connect them to these high demand industries. I mean, that's what we do. That's our Karate Kid wax on, wax off. So we're ready.
Awesome. Yep. I'll keep my ear to the ground. And as things come up, because I've got your email and Guy and I stay in touch. Guy, you're not coming to the college at all, are you? You're completely from home, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Cause I can't even go over there and get a coffee now. Everything's closed.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time this afternoon to record the show for tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much, Janet.
Janet. It was nice to meet you.
You too. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.